The news came out yesterday that what we've been waiting for a month since its finale was finally announced. The Acolyte canceled no season 2 for Disney Plus's Star Wars series. Now, this should not come as a surprise, but it still almost does, because this is Lucasfilm. This is Lucasfilm, a company that's made terrible decision after terrible decision. So for them to actually make this decision tells you how bad it truly was. And recently we found out what the actual numbers were, the ratings behind The Acolyte, finding out that it was the lowest viewed Star Wars project in history by a big margin. You see the finale, 335 million minutes watched. Good enough to crack into the top 10 for original programming, but still never appear in the actual top 10. But look at the comparisons, 335 million minutes. Look at the other ones that we have. Ahsoka, 575 million. Andor doubled it up, right? And Andor was a show that had positive momentum towards the end.
Correct.
Ahsoka was something that had a negative downtrend towards the end. Obi-Wan, 860. Which opened to like the biggest thing that they'd ever seen at that point for a Disney Star Wars project. It fell off hard as well, 860 million minutes.
And that's the context that some people don't understand. Some people don't. Anyway, the context of it, like Obi-Wan Kenobi, by the opening of that, should have been the #1 show on that list by a mile. But it didn't hold the audience at all. It did not hold the audience. I don't know what happened with Book of Boba Fett.
Well,
I don't know why that.
I'll tell you why that happened for Book of Boba Fett. That is one of the few that did have the pause momentum at the end. It's because if you remember episodes, the last 2 episodes of that were the Mando and Grogu episode where they she's reuniting them, and then Luke reunite them at the end in Boba Fett's show. And then you have Mando season 3 and Mando season 2 at over 1 billion minutes watched. But the reactions, Jeremy, the reactions have just been great. I think Amy's talking to you here. I'm really tired of sharing the franchise I love with toxic, misogynistic, immature racists. Mature racists would have been fine, by the way, and constantly seeing them be catered to, even though the rest of us have been here all along, wanting new and fresh stories that connect deeply with all of us. You're the ones that are being catered to by Disney Star Wars, Jeremy, just so you know. It's not like this show was literally made to cater to people like you. And that was not the only person saying that. Here you have The Acolyte being canceled is only going to fuel the most annoying people in the fandom who held a full-on hate train without even watching it because they don't know how to think for themselves. Disney needs to stop catering to these losers. We didn't even know this, Jeremy. How dumb are we? Disney Star Wars has actually been catering to us all along. Man, I didn't know
made a show from top to bottom specifically for these weirdos, from the beginning to the end, from every piece of marketing, from every piece of casting, from the lack of character development, because we know weirdos like this don't like character development. Every aspect of this show was catered to these people, and it failed miserably. Why? It's not because they didn't watch it. Oh, the weirdos watched it. The weirdos were all in. The reason it failed is because there's not a lot of those weirdos compared to the normal Star Wars fan. There's not many of them. It's a very small group of weird people that don't deserve a show with $180 million fucking budget. The show catered to you, and there weren't enough of you to actually justify its existence.
This was your opportunity, right? This was your opportunity to show that we, myself, you, Gary, a lot of other people we talk to all the time, that we were actually wrong, right? There's actually so many more of you. There are more of us than there are of you haters. There's not. There's just not. Star Wars continues to fold under the pressure of the worst, smallest, loudest part of the fan base. This is so wildly disappointing. Such a shameful move on Disney's part to abandon great stories and storytellers because of trolls. The Acolyte deserves better. The Acolyte deserves less, actually. It never should have came out to begin with. But again, this is the irony of posts like this. The worst, smallest, loudest parts of the fan base. You are describing the Acolyte fan base. You are describing the group of people that this was made for. The stands out there, the pronoun in bios, the trans flags and Palestine flags in your profile, which those two don't go together, sorry to tell you. You are the worst, smallest, loudest part in the fan base. And the Acolyte proves that. It proves what we've been saying all along. Well, what about this guy? Canceling The Acolyte, one of the worst decisions ever. It was a series that was finally pushing Star Wars in a new, fresh direction and was set up for an even better second season. But a bunch of babies couldn't handle that, and now we'll be stuck with more of the same forever. And look at this guy. Also on Manny's birthday of all days is insane. Yes, this is Manny Jacinto's, it was Manny Jacinto's birthday. They literally just like fucking taking him out to D23 to promote some dumb shit. And then you fucking drop this bomb. Now, again, it's not like Lucasfilm announced it, right? It's a story from Deadline, from sources at Lucasfilm. Because Lucasfilm doesn't announce when these things happen. Here you go. Someone who's now mourning The Acolyte. Disney really just said, fuck you to so many queer, POC, and non-traditional Star Wars fans. All because this show got review bombed to hell and back before it even came out. This is funny, too. People are even mad that the news came out saying that it's been canceled. Instead of like so many other things, it's just a mystery. Like there's still people asking for Obi-Wan season 2 and stuff like this. Watch this. Totally agree with Jennifer Land about the way The Acolyte news is being handled. Obviously, I'm disappointed there won't be a season 2 of The Acolyte, but I really don't like that it's being reported as canceled. The Book of Boba Fett didn't have a season 2, but the narrative wasn't that it was canceled. Some fans thought there'd be a season 2 of Kenobi, but when that didn't happen, it was never reported in the trades as being canceled. My point is, by using the term canceled, it emboldens a certain portion of the fan base, that's us, that purposely review bombed and did everything they could to trash the series simply because it had a predominantly POC cast and was created by Leslye Headland, who's an openly gay woman. Deadline knows that by framing the news as a reflection of the show's failure, they get more clicks. They're even upset that it's just being reported as canceled.
There's no responsibility for the show. There's no responsibility for the showrunners, for the creative directions. It's everyone else's fault. That's why the show got canceled. It's everyone else's fault.
It's
not to mention Leslye Headland was actively lobbying for a season 2 in an interview recently. She was lobbying for it. She wanted it, and it clearly set up for a season 2.
There is actually, if I want to get conspiratorial or whatever, because Leslye Headland was being so adamant about asking for season 2 and saying we have plans and all this stuff and trying to generate the fan base to ask for it. Maybe that's why somebody at Lucasfilm did give this to Deadline, like intentionally, to like basically stamp that out so they don't have to put up with that for months and months and months. I'm literally just guessing, right? I'm just saying. I wouldn't be surprised if something like that did happen, because the loudest, most annoying part of the fan base, that's also the smallest, are these freaks. But yeah, all the blame gets passed everywhere else other than where it should be. On Disney, Lucasfilm, Leslye Headland, all the writers associated with this for greenlighting it, number 1, spending $180 million on it, number 2, and ultimately placing so much emphasis on things ahead of the story and honoring Star Wars.